This is probably the first device we've ever used that you can imagine replacing the phone.
This is Orion, not a headset, no wires, wide field of view, holographic displays, large enough to display a cinema screen or multiple monitors for working wherever you go. This is the physical world with holograms overlaid on it.
So obviously Orion was the big surprise announcement, which has blown us all away. Can you talk a little bit, just give it sort of a brief intro, and then maybe explain why it's so important for the future of humanity?
Yeah, I mean, 10 years in the making, really, since we started the research. 5.5 years since we started officially the project codenamed Orion. And at the outset, it seemed it was a moonshot. It was a North Star that we didn't know if we could hit, but aiming at it, we figured we'd accomplish something of value. And kind of against all odds, to be honest with you, we've hit it. We've actually built the thing that we wanted to build. And it has, it's been pretty spectacular the last couple of months to be able to play with it. 70-degree field of view, full color, and you can just see through it. It's just clear as day, and so you're not catching all kinds of haze or rainbows. You can make full eye contact, and it's fine. And it's controlled with a neural interface, which itself was, of course, a tremendous journey of research to get this kind of small, sleek-looking band that you can, with a slight gesture, even out of view of the device, control the interface that's happening on the device. Every single part of it is novel. I mean, that's the crazy thing about it. If we think about the computers that you and I are used to, everything from the PCs that we grew up on to the touch screens that we have today, they all are using an interaction design model that was pioneered in the 1960s at Stanford Research Institute, at Xerox PARC, at Apple, at Microsoft, and so on. That was based around this direct manipulation interface. I have a keyboard, I have a mouse, I have a touch screen. It's completely different when you have augmented reality because you don't have any of those things. You have your voice, which is pretty indirect indeed. You have your hands, but you can't walk around all day doing this. So the hand tracking works, but it's not enough. So you've had to invent not only the technologies to drive these displays and to have the sensing and to have the awareness of where you are in the world, but also the software to be able to make that intuitive and to make it usable. And so being able to have this time machine, and I've got a clear version here, to be able to have this time machine that allows you to look into the future and be in real time, like really developing true software for it that we're able to use, is a tremendous advantage at building your intuition. It allows you to figure out what to build for next generations. So we already have the next 2 versions of this in prototyping that we're starting to develop to try to bring to consumers.
Tucked away somewhere.
Tucked away, absolutely, hidden from view. And the next ones are lighter, they're thinner. There's some trade-offs. It's not all, some things are, field of view might be a little bit smaller, but it might be brighter on the same time. So this gives you this platform. It feels like an elbow in the development curve. In terms of being important for humanity, I mean, I don't know if it's important for humanity in existential terms, but I do think it comes with some really nice properties. I think this is probably the first device we've ever used that you can imagine replacing the phone and allowing you to be at once much more connected to the world around you, because the device itself is also aware of the world around you thanks to these tremendous advances in AI, and it's able to be helpful without me having to go out of band and be like, oh, let me go look that up. Oh, I just remembered, I've got to check my. It's like, no, you don't have to remember those things. Like those things will be contextually available to you at a thought, really. And so I think we've got a tremendous opportunity to continue to advance people's ability to make the digital world work for them and the way that they go out their physical lives. And obviously at the end of the day, you hope that time is spent with people you care about doing things that you love. So we think it's an important piece of technology. We think it's probably the hardest challenge our industry has taken on probably in my lifetime. And we're just absolutely thrilled that it works.
That's great. I assume you've been wearing it a lot. What's the thing that, when you take it off, you really miss it? You sort of think that, that's the thing that I crave using it for. It's really good at this thing, and I just don't get that box ticked by the smartphone or the tablet or the computer or even, existing Meta glasses. Yeah,
a couple of interesting examples. One that I think will probably be common to most people from the pandemic. If you spent the pandemic like I did on meetings, you're on video calls all day. One nice feature that did emerge was that you often have a chat alongside the video call. And the chat is among people who are, hey, can I get a clarifying question on what happened there? Someone provides the information. So you've got both the main conversation, which is now much more on rails, and you've got this kind of very helpful back channel conversation that's happening. And what's funny is when I'm wearing the Orion glasses, you can get that while you're in an actual meeting. Like you can be in an actual meeting and be having somebody say, "Oh, hey, you may have missed," like just so you see the prototype that they were referring to is this one. And you've got the schematic there, and I glance at it. Okay, now I've got that.
You can do live fact checking.
You can do it in real time, and it's so fun when you don't have it. You have to like get your. It sounds petty, in the same way that people used to make fun of mobile phones. People say, "Who's so important that you need to phone call when you're not at your home?" Well, all of us turn out to be that important. I feel a bit the same saying it, but like. Now I'm like, when I'm resentful, I have to take my phone out of my pocket. I'm like, oh, jeez, I gotta type this. Look, I might as well just stop this meeting and ask people. And so there's this kind of funny set of things which are, when the digital is this separate place that you go to, it's still phenomenally useful. The smartphone's great. But it is a separate place. And when I go to this place, if you came in here and I was doing this, you wouldn't even introduce yourself. You would just wait until I put the phone down because I am not with you. Like, I am here now. And the glasses let you do both. Like I feel fully engaged here as I'm getting augmented with additional information. So those are the types of experiences that I've had in the glasses that when I take them off, I'm like, oh man, yeah, I'm really resentful that I have to go to the phone for this, or I'm resentful I have to go to my laptop for this.
You said that you think it's going to replace the smartphone, and like in those examples, it feels pretty clear that there probably will come a point where it'll be hard to go back to using the smartphone when you're so used to doing everything on the headset. How certain are you that the smartphone is going to go away eventually? Or will there still be some...
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it went away. I mean, I think people are still using VHS recorders and a bunch of other things. And I think...
Like a fun retro gadget. Oh,
I think it'll be quite a long time before it happens, to be honest with you. I think these glasses are... It's fun that they're years away and not decades away, for once, which is new. But even once they hit the mainstream, getting them to the point of ubiquity, getting the cost down enough so that it really can be a credible replacement for what have become a very affordable and wonderful device in smartphones. It's going to be a long journey. And we have to build up the ecosystem of applications and software. But I think this is the first device I've ever used that I'm like, oh, this could do it. Like before this, there was nothing. Before this, the smartphone was like the terminal device that we had experienced. And this at least gives us a glimpse of like, oh, a thing that if I had this, and if it's the way I could imagine it being, then I wouldn't need a phone.
So if you sort of imagine a future where, let's say, that the smartphone is generally replaced, most people have the glasses, the prices come down significantly, most people are wearing them. How do you think the killer feature then changes? Because, the examples you gave are quite useful on like a personal level.
Yeah.
But do you think once there's mass adoption, that killer feature will change and people will be like, oh, this is amazing because I can have like a remote school session, maybe you don't need buildings for certain things.
You're absolutely right. This is a technology that when it becomes more ubiquitous, the value increases dramatically. There's a network effect to it. A good example, just in our demo, if two people are wearing the Orion glasses, they can sum up a game of Pong between them. And you'll be playing Pong, and what's so funny is you don't realize how much the people who aren't wearing Orion glasses, you just look a little bit ridiculous because you're playing a game in space. But then you realize it, and you don't care because it's really fun and engaging, and you and this other person are having this, tremendously rich shared experience that happens to be completely virtual, but to us, it might as well be tangible. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. Another one is definitely co-presence, where you and I are physically here. It would be very unusual if I could see a third person and you couldn't see the person. That's not very helpful. But if we both have glasses and we can both see them, and our glasses agree that person is right there, well, now it becomes a completely fluid conversation for us. Yeah. And so we have all those demos working, and they really are special, but they require real penetration of the technology.
Because you can sort of imagine a future where it doesn't just replace the smartphone, but it could replace really like a lot of things. Almost everyone has them. Like, do you need TVs anymore? Can we just simulate TVs? Like, do we need the pictures on the walls, or can we just all simulate pictures? Can I have different pictures than you? Can I have a different TV show than you? And you can still share those spaces.
Absolutely.
But it replaces a lot of that physicality. And I guess you could make the argument that it will bring down waste at some point.
I absolutely have made that argument, and I completely agree with you. You're taking my talking points right out of my mouth, which I love. It's my favorite way to do it. I completely agree with you, and I'll go further. I always think back to houses that were built like before the 1950s, and they weren't built with any place to watch TV. Why would they have been? TV wasn't really a major feature. And like, it changed architecture when TVs came about, and it became a popular pastime in America and eventually around the world to gather together socially at the end of the day with your family, with your friends, and like watch a show or a program or a sports. How different will our architecture be when quite a few of the things that we have today that we've manufactured, we've cut a tree down, or we've like burned some plastic, and we've really, and then we've shipped it over an ocean on a boat, and then we've put it on a train, and then we've put it on a truck, and then we've put it on a drone, and then we've put it on your house. We've used every known human mode of transportation. We've spent it to space and come back, and it's gotten to your house, and you don't need it. Like, you don't need any of that. You don't need any of that. Why couldn't your entire TV, mined from rare minerals in the earth, why couldn't it just be a $1 app that's just it's all bits, there's no atoms? That's all possible once you have penetration of this technology. How close is that? I'm not going to say. Again, I think the glasses are years, not decades away. That future is a penetration which is hard to guess at, but it's very real.
What I find interesting is we've actually spent a lot of time talking about the stuff it can show you. It can display stuff in front of your eyes, which is fantastic. But also, it's taking information in because it can use AI to analyze stuff. And how important is that part of the glasses? And what's the progression going to look like on that front in terms of the data that it can take in, and then how it can work with that data? Yeah,
ironically, I think that is actually the thing that will hit us the hardest first, because that is truly an advantage that these devices have that your phone does not have. Your phone is with you at all times, but it can't see what you're seeing. It can't hear what you're hearing. And it doesn't have the ability to do much proactively on your behalf as a consequence. And these glasses absolutely, combined with Meta AI, they are capable of observing and recording and querying and understanding what's happening. And so we have some really amazing demos internally where a pair of glasses that's designed to be sensing glasses are paying attention to what's going on over the course of the day. And then you can ask them questions about your day. And you can say, hey, in the interior design meeting, what was the third color I picked? And it just knows. And you're like, oh, there was a poster on the wall at work. What did it say? And it says, oh yeah, there was a kid's birthday party happening at this time at this place. And so your day becomes queryable. And then you take that, and we haven't done this yet, but you turn that into an agent that's working on your behalf. And it's like, oh, don't forget, your wife left you a Post-it just to pick up, coffee on the way home.
You can imagine how life-changing that's going to be for people with like dementia.
A tremendous opportunity. And we do think of this as pioneering these fundamental technologies, and they're kind of pick and place. And so we really thought when we started out with the Orion program all those years ago, that would be holograms first, and then at some point later on, AI would come. That was just how we imagined it. And we were wrong. AI is coming first. Like, AI is actually going to hit. And so I'm wearing, right, these Ray-Ban Meta glasses that have AI that can query the world around me. I can query the images that they see. They only respond today when I query them. But we're not that far from being able to have, we've already invested a tremendous amount in the types of sensors that you would need to be running at very low powers all day. And it's just feeding the AI. It's not a sensor that is providing visible information to anybody in the world. It's just the AI paying attention and able to answer questions for you, or proactively work on your behalf. And for people who are in elder care situations, people who have dementia, for people who have vision or hearing impairments, we announced today the Be My Eyes partnership for the Ray-Ban Metas, which have already been a hit in the blind and low vision community. And we hear this tremendous positive feedback. And so we're trying to feed into that. Well, if you have this glasses with displays in them, if you now are someone who's deaf or is hard of hearing, tremendous opportunity to then take sound information and make it visible. And what can you do there? So I just think the sensing part of these glasses, the AI parts of these glasses, is going to be the bigger impact on society sooner.
What I think is interesting, and it's sort of teased almost a little bit with the wrist control for the glasses, is sort of, what's the distant future for this kind of wearable? Because ultimately you're still asking people to put something on their head, which is, fine for me, I wear glasses, that's cool. But for a lot of people, it might still be too big of an ask. But in the distant future, are we looking at shrinking it down to contact lenses? Is it going to be eye implants? Is it going to go the other way and be something more, on the brain implant side, and you're sort of seeing with your mind rather than having something physically on your body? What's the end goal for this type of tech?
Yeah, so 8 years ago, we did, in partnership with UCSF, an invasive neural implant with somebody who was nonverbal through a traumatic brain injury, and was able, through this implant, to gain a vocabulary of about 400 words that they could use. And the reason we did that test was then when we put a super sensitive sensors over the top of his skull to see if we could infer any correlation from the interior sensors that we had. And the answer was no, you couldn't. It really was impossible. Mm-hmm. And the challenge I have with invasive procedures is that it's not just, oh, I have to do open brain surgery. You have to do it every year or every like a couple of years because the body myelinates, the brain myelinates and attacks these implants. And so they lose effectiveness over time. And like the consumer readiness for an annual brain surgery, I suspect to be very low, and I'd like to not do that. What's amazing about the wrist, which we acquired a company called Control Labs, who really pointed us in this direction, is you have tremendous neuroplasticity in your motor cortex, the ability to remap your motor cortex to send signals that it didn't previously expect to send. And so you have actually excess bandwidth, and a lot of it runs down and is monitorable at your wrists. So today the neural interface is very simple. You're making small gestures, and we're picking that up through EMG sensors. But over time, you can get to the point where you have to make no gesture at all, and you're still sending an intention, as if a motor signal, as if you were going to move your hand, but the hand just doesn't move, and we're able to pick up on it. And I think the ceiling on that technology could be quite high. So today it's a few simple gestures, but we could also do handwriting. Mm-hmm. And if you had two, you could do typing with no keyboard. And so these become a much higher ceiling. So you ask this question, where does this go? If we all had not just AR glasses, but neural interfaces, for the devices that I do have in my home, things like an oven, a microwave, they don't need to have a screen or any buttons on them anymore. The display would be provided directly to the glasses, and I would manipulate it directly with my neural interfaces. And so everything around you becomes capable of having that kind of interaction modality.
Everything's going to change.
I think it'll take a long time. I think we'll have time to get used to it. But yeah, I think it's a very exciting vision of the future.
I think probably the only other question I would have is, when you look at like Apple's strategy so far for headsets, it's been, here's a really expensive, really good headset. You guys have taken a much more, here's a nice broad range of headsets. We've got some really cheap ones, the new Quest 3S, which is $299, super, super cheap for what it is. Are you thinking the same sort of strategy with, bringing the price down on these eventually? I mean, assume it's a very expensive pair of glasses to make.
This is a pricey pair of glasses, and the major focus we have for the next version is to make it more affordable to produce. Look, we always talk about not the Quest 3 product line or the Quest product line, we talk about the Quest ecosystem. Yeah. The reason to make it affordable is not just that we want people to experience the technology, we do, but also we want to have a big audience for developers so that developers can build a business and they build the software that makes the audience grow, and that becomes the virtuous cycle. When you have such a novel technology as virtual or mixed reality, the most important thing you can do is allow developers and the community of people using it to have a really strong upward trajectory, so that more developers causes more consumers, and more consumers causes more developers, and it goes forever. So I think that's been our very clear strategy, and I think people taking a more expensive approach, I understand the appeal of it in some ways, but if you don't have any software, these devices are just very fancy bricks.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for speaking to me.
Thank you.